The morning sunlight streamed through the tall glass windows of Orimac, corporate tower like golden rivers, but for Jaron Cole it felt like stepping into an entirely different world, one too polished, too perfect, too far away from the life he struggled to keep afloat. As he hurried down the pristine hallway, clutching the stack of maintenance reports he needed to deliver, his heart beat fast, not because of nerves, but because he was late. He never could afford to be late, not with his little daughter waiting for him. Not with bills piling up like mountains, and not with a boss who believed that a single dad with too many problems had no place in a company this big. But fate didn't care about any of that. Fate had its own way of rewriting a man's destiny, and it would begin the moment Jaron rushed into a room he thought was empty, only to freeze in shock as he realized he had opened the wrong door and the CEO stood inside, changing her shirt in the full brightness of day. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and emotional stories that touch the heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Spark. It means the world and helps us grow this community. Jaron stumbled back instantly, his voice caught somewhere between panic and apology. But the image burned into his eyes wasn't inappropriate. What stunned him was the vulnerability on the face of Serafina Vale, the famously untouchable CEO of Orimax. Known across the industry for her brilliance and ice-cold demeanor, she was the last person anyone expected to see in a moment of unguarded humanity. Her short, dark blonde hair was unstyled, her business blouse half-buttoned, her expression far softer than the world ever saw. But what struck Jaron more than anything was the exhaustion in her eyes, as if she too was fighting battles no one knew about. She simply told him to close the door. He did, and that moment, brief and awkward as it was, planted a seed that would grow into something neither of them saw coming. The day returned to its rhythm, but Jaron couldn't shake the feeling that trouble was coming. People like him didn't cross paths with CEOs without consequences. He thought of his 8-year-old daughter, Riva, sunny, bright, always trying to be stronger than she needed to be. She depended on him for everything, especially since her mother had walked away when things got tough. Riva deserved stability, love, and chances he felt he could barely provide. He couldn't risk losing his job, not when he still owed 2 months of rent and medical bills from her asthma episode last winter. So he worked through the day with double discipline, keeping his head down, hoping Serafina would forget the incident. But that was impossible. Later that afternoon, as golden daylight cast warm reflections across the lobby floor, Serafina called for him. Her assistant's tone held no judgment, but Jaron felt dread crawling along his spine as he stepped into the executive wing. The air smelled faintly of jasmine and polished wood. It was too clean, too sharp, too elegant for someone wearing an old maintenance uniform patched 3 times near the pocket. Yet when he walked into Serafina's office, she wasn't cold. She wasn't angry. She simply regarded him with steady, thoughtful eyes before acknowledging what happened in the morning. Instead of reprimanding him, she surprised him by asking about his work hours, his duties, and what brought him to Orimax. He tried to answer professionally, but something in Serafina, perhaps the same weariness he saw earlier, made him speak honestly. He told her about Riva, about the long nights balancing 2 jobs, about how he was doing everything he could to give his daughter a life better than the one he grew up in. He expected her to change the subject or end the conversation. Instead, she quietly listened. Her fingers rested over a silver pen, her expression unreadable but not unkind. The daylight caught the faint shadows under her eyes, revealing someone who also hadn't slept well in weeks. As days went by, nothing obvious happened, but something subtle shifted. She started addressing him by name, something she didn't do with most junior employees. She asked for maintenance updates directly from him, instead of sending tasks through others. Sometimes she even paused to ask how Riva was doing, and though these moments were brief, they felt like warm pockets of light in Jaron's usually exhausting days. At first, he tried to avoid reading into it, but each interaction held a sincerity that made him reconsider everything he assumed about her. Under the CEO armor was a woman who understood loneliness and pressure at a depth he hadn't expected. Meanwhile, Serafina fought battles of her own. She had taken over the company after her father's passing fighting constant resistance from shareholders who believed a woman, especially a young one, couldn't lead. She carried the weight of maintaining Orimax's legacy while battling a world eager to see her fail. Her days were full of deadlines, negotiations, expectations, and a never-ending storm of responsibility. The incident with Jaren wasn't embarrassing to her. It was inconvenient, yes, but oddly grounding. It reminded her that she was human. That vulnerability didn't mean weakness, that even in the highest towers, loneliness could echo louder than applause. One sunny Wednesday, Jaren received a call from Riva's school while he was fixing a light panel in the east hallway. She had suffered a severe asthma flare and needed immediate pickup. Panic surged through him. He couldn't afford to abandon his shift, but his daughter was his world. He rushed to request emergency leave, but his supervisor denied it, insisting the workload was too heavy. Desperation clenched his chest. Then, to his shock, Serafina appeared at the end of the hallway, speaking with two executives. She noticed Jaren's distressed expression and immediately approached. When she learned what happened, she didn't hesitate. She ordered his supervisor to grant him leave and even insisted on driving him herself since his motorcycle was in repair. They drove through the bright afternoon rush, warm sunlight washing across the car interior. Jaren felt a mix of embarrassment and gratitude. Serafina remained calm, focused, and strangely gentle. When they reached the school infirmary, she waited outside, watching students play under the open sky while he rushed to Riva. Minutes later, when he carried his small, struggling daughter outside, Serafina stepped forward and knelt slightly to greet the frightened child. She spoke softly, reassuringly, and handed her a small bottle of water. Riva, usually shy, seemed instantly comforted by her presence. Something shifted that day, something deeper, something impossible to ignore. From then on, Serafina found reasons to be around Jaren more often. She initiated small conversations, asked about his daughter's health, and even recommended a better pediatric clinic her company supported. Jaren, cautious but moved,